Hello there, and welcome to Write-Aerobics. Let's get those creative juices flowing this morning with some fun exercises. Hey, how's everybody doing out there? Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so let's start with our first exercise here. Synonym sit-ups. Yep. Let's get going, shall we? Let's hear those synonyms. Yep. Jump. What do we got out there? Leap. Alright. What about a wall? Spring. I like spring for jump, yeah. Wall. So we have different ways of looking at it. You could say fence, barrier, obstacle, stack of bricks. How about splash? Splash. Squish. Yes. Submerge. Dunk. Sploosh. Castle. Chateau. Fortress. Tower. Palace. House, depending on who you are, right? It's all about perspective, right? Museum, right? Monolith. Symbol of opulence. All right, what about rays? Streams, yeah, streams. Light. Streaks. Shimmer. Beams, yep, beams. All right. Okay, let's move on to our next exercise, and this is backstory building. So we're going to look at a person, and we're going to come up with a backstory for them. So what do we think this person's life might be like? We can come up with a few different ideas. Let's take a look. Let me get myself out of the way here. All right. So what is this person's story? We've got a few clues going on here that can give us some ideas. We have somebody that clearly looks a little stressed out, it appears, but working in some sort of high-tech office. First thing that comes to mind is this person is crunching some numbers late at night. She's doing something to try to aid the world. After all, there's that big uh, world behind it. She's got a lot on her mind other than work. Yeah, that could be it. It could be that she's not even that she's working so hard, but there is something going on in her personal life that is really troubling her as well. Everybody else seems to be like very much in their own little world, and she's all stressing out. And what kind of office is this? It's very scientific looking. It could be something like she works for a cell phone company and they're just tracking coverage, or this maybe is some sort of environmental group. They're doing some sort of climate research, or they're involved in some sort of geographical or geological study or environmental study of some sort. Lots of different possibilities. Ooh, that's weird. I see a student studying and getting stressed because she just isn't getting it. That sounds like some personal experience coming in there. I can relate, certainly on some subjects. Not surprisingly, I was more of an English person, not as much of a math person. So yeah, English English comp was a breeze. Calculus, yeah, that took a while. I might have had to take that class multiple times. I'm just saying. All right, exercise number 3. Perspective pump. So we're going to look at the same clip and we're going to try to think of as many different perspectives as we can. And I warn you, this clip's a little weird. Let's go. My first thought is the test for the floatable car did not go as well as planned. Or James Bond, yes. But it's not like James Bond because usually it like actually like transforms, but this one just kind of fails. So it's like James Bond's not so savvy cohort filming a television commercial. I'm also picturing like this really like big revenge on in like an X or something. It's like, I'm even gonna dump their car into the ocean. And of course you could also take the perspective of the fish down below and they're like, what is going on here? And I thought we had a nice quiet neighborhood. Failed getaway. There's something almost soothing about this video. But what I want to understand is like where it even comes from. I can fly or not, right? It's how you feel putting your work out there often. You're like, yes, my work is gonna maybe it's not gonna go as well as I thought. Sink or swim often, sink or swim. And it's like, drive off of a ferry, emergency brake failed. All right, let's look at exercise number 4. And these are adjective amps. So we're going to try to describe this scene with as many adjectives as we can think of. Look at that beautifulness. Looks like the view outside my house. No, I'm just kidding. I live in Florida. I don't know what this kind of view looks like. So, crystal, freezing, crisp and frosty. Yes. Frosted glass. Ooh, I like that. It's so white, right? It's almost monochromatic. It's just black and white. It's like all, like the cold had sucked the color out of the environment. I like that one. I think I'm gonna write that down. I might use that sometime. Snow crusted, yes. I do like that crusted because it gives you that crunchiness that you really get from the image. So that's a really good word for this. I like words that can do double duty like that. There is a certain amount of peacefulness to it. There's also a certain amount of kind of gloominess because it just everything is just covered and overwhelmed by cold, and so it just depends on your perspective, I suppose. Solitude, yes, does feel very quiet around this frozen tundra. But this is something to keep in mind, you know, whenever you're working on a book. Just like a lot of artists, you know, if they're drawing or they're painting, they'll look at references. Don't be afraid to look at reference images, because even if you feel like I have a really good idea of what, I don't know, the beach looks like, and I'm sure you do, it just makes a difference when you just have that, you know, looking at it right in front of your face. frozen. That's what I was gonna say. Because, different things will hit you. And then, especially, what's fun is you can kind of put on your little actor outfit and you can think of the character's frame of mind, their background, and you can be like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm that character and I'm looking at the scene. Now, what am I seeing? And that can get that into your prose. So it's always great when your prose can do multiple things at the same time. All right, so that being said, let's move on to exercise number 5. And on this one, we're going to think about the storyline for whatever we're working on. So this could be maybe you're working on a draft of a manuscript right now, or maybe you are actually editing. That's fine, doesn't matter. Just whatever project you are working on this given moment. Maybe you're in the outlining stage. So think about that whole journey. Think about the plot, the specific mechanical, structural elements. You have a main character and you have something that is an obstacle and they're trying to overcome it and they're, progressing on this journey. So think about that, kind of form it in your head, and then we're going to do a little riff on that. Okay. And that is, what are the characteristics of the people in your story that do not directly tie into the plot of the story? And the reason why I bring this up is because people can get very concerned about, bringing up things that aren't relevant to the plot because they're like, well, isn't that just a waste of time? And the truth of the matter is, in life, not everything just folds nice and neat into a little bundle, right? There's always going to be little things that aren't necessarily super important. However, what they can tell you is things about people's personality. And that can be beneficial even if mechanically it doesn't serve the plot. For example, your protagonist might be a really good cook, and that tells you something about them depending on how they express that. So you would be able to say that, they're the kind of cook that, plans everything out in advance, never deviates from a recipe or something like that. And that tells you something about the character. Does that mean that the protagonist needs to bake a cake in order to solve their problem? Nope, because it might not be relevant to the mechanics of the story, and that's okay. That's not going to be the end of the world. It's not bad if you are revealing character. Now, where I think this can get people hung up is they'll be like, well, if I include it and it's not really relevant to the story, isn't that a waste of time? And like I said, if it reveals character, it's not. And sometimes there are ways you should reveal character that aren't just directly tied into an action that's going to pay off in the story. Because otherwise, then everything just kind of feels very pat and put together and it feels a little mechanical and artificial. You want to have those extra elements. And that's especially true for your secondary characters. The main character, obviously, you're spending so much time with them. I'm sure you already have things in their personality that don't, directly tie into solving a problem in the plot. But don't be afraid to include those little details for your side characters as well. Because again, that will just give them more life. That will make them feel like they have a life outside the story. Because the whole point of writing a book and giving a believable environment is that you want the audience to believe that it exists outside of the world of the story, that they're stepping into something and it's like that iceberg effect, right? There is an iceberg underneath because then it'll feel real to them. You don't want it to just feel like you're only including details that are specific to the story because then it will just not feel as realistic. So, just something to keep in mind as you're working on projects. Don't be, like I said, don't be afraid to include those details as long as they reveal character. If they don't reveal character and they don't move forward the story, then it's just superfluous. It doesn't really do anything. It's just wasting time. All right, so that being said, it's time for a writing sprint. So we're going to take a few minutes here, and then I will be back on the other side. But hopefully your creative juices are flowing and you're ready to get going. So, writing sprint time. Let's go.
Each and every one of us, each being, we're interconnected. You and me, we're interconnected. Each and every one of us, each being, we're interconnected. You and me, we're interconnected.
All right. Excuse me, everybody. So I hope that these exercises have gotten you off. I'm not going to try to interrupt your flow there. You enjoy your writing. And if there's anything we can do to make these exercises better for you and more involved or more productive, just let us know. And you can always email me too at daniel@autocrit.com. Other than that, the next show we have is tomorrow night, and that is going to be our Tale in a Day, and that begins at 8 p.m. We'll give you a few prompts, and then you'll have 24 hours in which to submit. Excuse me. You'll have 24 hours in which to submit your work. And it can be short. It can just be an outline. It can be just a couple thousand words. We're not looking for anything long. It's just some motivation to get a little story done, and we'll read it live on air, and it's a lot of fun. Oh, I'm glad this gives you motivation. Yes, that is the whole point. Yes. Love the idea to look at references while writing. Yeah, absolutely. There's another resource that you might think of, and it is This Person Does Not Exist, I think it's called. Yes, This Person Does Not Exist.com. That is a website that will just generate a face for you. It's a computer generated face. That person does not exist. And so you can just refresh and it will give you somebody, and you can always save that image, and that could be a character in your book. And guess what? The person doesn't exist. So you can do whatever you want with it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, so that'll be, especially if you're just stuck on what a person might look like. You just refresh a few times. You're like, oh, okay, that person looks good. So yes, thank you so much. You have a great day. Like I said, Tale in a Day tomorrow, and then on Sunday night I have my story doctor at 8 p.m. So if you have any questions about anything you're working on, you can come and bring your questions. You can also, again, email me, daniel@autocrit.com, any questions, and I'll cover them on the air as well. All right. Well, you have a great day. Get back to writing. Have fun, everybody. Bye. The title for